Hello friends, and welcome to CJoy Yoga. So this sequence is designed for my friend Anne, but it's a lot of the same things that many of us are having some issues with in general, and especially during our time isolating at home. And that is the upper back and the neck, as well as the low back. So this is going to be not so much a class as very particular, what we'll say, lessons or exercises for those areas. So start lying down on your back. And once you get there, just a reminder, I say it often, but I think it bears worth repeating as many times as needs to be, right? And that is that when my low back is sensitive, a lot of people's low backs are sensitive, just muscularly, having the legs extended all the way out can be really hard on the low back or bring you discomfort, all right? So rather than going to that place thinking like, well, but that's where I have to go because I have to stretch my back out, start here. And by the end of class, hopefully maybe it's less sensitive, right? So if you're choosing this option, I personally like to walk my feet out a little bit and lean my knees in. Now, some people bring their knees all the way to touch. For me, that tends to get into my knee a little bit. So I like to have my legs just falling in, but not actually moving into touch. You can play with your range. Where is it that your hips are soft and your low back has space, right? Shoulder blades gently, gently down the back. Don't go too crazy with that one. Arms out, palms up. And we'll take just a few moments to check in. And I'm going to bring us to those particular areas, and that's going to be where our check-in is today. That is to say, bring your awareness to your back of your pelvis and your low back. And then let's just bring that scan up, coming up, finding out A, what your relationship is to the floor, B, if there's any sensations, and C, just anything that you need, if there's muscular tension, letting it go, right? Anything you need to know about that area. So we're coming up from the low back towards where those low floating ribs come down towards the ground. Notice whether or not they're on it. Don't judge it, just notice. Think about your kidneys and your adrenal glands, your whole organic body actually softening down towards the earth. And then bring your awareness into that mid-thoracic, I'm going to call it, the mid to upper back, right? About the bra line area. And even if you don't wear a bra, most of us know where that is on our anatomical map. And then bringing that area up between the shoulder blades and checking into that area of the body. Now you can even encompass the shoulder blades. And then bringing it all the way up to where the neck and the thoracic spine connect, and those muscles that run out from the neck to the shoulders. Checking into the neck itself, and again, your relationship to the floor. Evidently, I'm going to fall asleep, sorry. And also if there are muscles that are tense that you can let go, if there's any sensations happening. And then just one moment in the back of the skull. What part of the back of the skull is making connection with the earth? And then we'll start to move from here. The first one is nice and simple and subtle. You'll bring your hands up until they meet above the chest, fingers pointing towards the sky. And then you're just going to slide the right hand up the left. Don't be too aggressive with this, and soften back down. Let it be really soft and gentle. Left hand reaches up. You don't have to get a certain, amount up or any such thing, right? It's just starting to feel that movement happening in your shoulder girdle. As my right fingers slide up, you can find your own pattern now, but try not to go too fast, right? And as I slide down, I'm starting to get into the motions of the shoulder blade. I'm starting to stretch the muscles from the spine over to and around the shoulder blades. It's probably even moving up into my neck, so keep the neck and the jaw and the tongue really soft. And again, just letting this area know that we care, that we're bringing our awareness there, and just doing nice, soft, subtle movements where the muscles don't have to work too much and they're still getting some of that spaciousness. Now after you've gone up with the left fingers the next time, you're going to come on back to your neutral, and we're going to give ourselves a hug. So go ahead and hug yourself, and either arm on top, that part you get to choose. And for my eagle arm friends, we're not going to do eagle arms right now. Not to say that's wrong, but again, we're sticking with a little bit softer, subtler element right now. So with your arms crossed, you can walk your hands towards the inner edge of your shoulder blades, but then soften and take 2 breaths right in between your shoulder blades, or whatever part feels tight, quite honestly. Inhale. But your lungs are right there, by the way. And exhale. One more just like that. Inhale. And exhale. And then go ahead and reach those arms up and change the crossing of the arms. Put the other arm on top. I'm by my microphone, so I'm sorry if I'm knocking that a little bit. And walk your hands down to the inner edge of your shoulder blades. And then softening the arms and the hands and the fingers, and just let that be, and take 2 breaths into whatever feels tight. Inhale. But again, you are stretching the area between the shoulder blades. Exhale. And that is pretty much where more the bottom lobes of your lungs are, right? One more time, inhale. So if you expand those lungs, chances are you'll expand that space in the spine. And exhale. And then go ahead and bring those arms down by the side. While we're down here on the ground, we're going to do one more thing. Walk your feet into hip distance, or put your feet on the ground if they were extended out. Just a couple of rolling bridges, and we'll add on the third one a small upper back bend. So inhaling, pushing into the feet and starting to roll up 1 vertebrae at a time. And then when you exhale, you're going to roll back down. Now, notice what parts of your spine don't want to roll so much. For my particular spine, it's when I get down by my L3, L4, and L5. They're kind of one big clunk, right? And as I try to roll up, I try to roll through each of them, and it's a little harder there for me. But then as I move through the spine, I have that a little bit with more ease, right? That may be totally different. Some people, it's their mid-thoracic that kind of has the pieces that are kind of combined together, bound together, and do the clunk. And this is our third one. So when you come on up, pause. You're going to have robot arms. That means your elbows stay on the ground, but your fingertips point up to the ceiling. Try to walk your shoulders underneath you a little more if that's available. Don't go crazy. To keep the low back safe, reach your buttocks towards the backs of the knees, and then push into your elbows and your arms and your shoulders, and let that chest just open towards the chin. And yes, we always focus on the chest because there's that beautiful opening. I like to bring your awareness to between your shoulder blades. So now we're moving those shoulder blades slightly together and towards the buttocks in order to open the upper back. Take an inhale in the direction we don't usually go, right? And exhale, rolling back down. Okay, so now you're going to roll over to the side. I'll let you go to whichever side is best for you, and push the floor away, meaning more what side brings you towards camera. And I'll talk about top arm and bottom arm. So the legs, they can either stack somewhat like a mermaid, or you can separate them out here. It's really whatever feels the most comfortable, so there's no compression in the waist. It's not a super particular thing, right? You're going to bring the bottom hand out just a little bit from the shoulder line, and the arm can be pretty straight. If you're a hyperextender, you might bend it a little bit so you don't hyperextend and that shoulder softens. Top hand, bring it up, bring that hand behind your head, take an inhale. With an exhale, you're going to let that elbow just kind of start to move down towards that other arm. And inhale, come on up. So it's not so much the movement of the elbow to the arm, right? I mean, yes, that's the movement, but that's not the objective. The objective is notice in between your shoulder blades. And I say that, but that's where I usually feel it. That's where most people I query say they feel it, right? But today, wow, my lower right back is really getting stretched with this. So that gives me information, right? And we're going to do one more time, and then this time when you come down and in, you're going to hold there for just a moment, and then this may or may not give you a little extra or slightly different spot. If you move your elbow, the top elbow, away from your thighs, right, that might be a little wider than the mat, it might be in towards the fingers. You can kind of play with that. You can either keep moving it and find your nooks and crannies, or if there's a spot that's like, oh yeah, right, stay in that spot and take a breath. And then to come up, let's reach the elbow forward to circle it up. And then we're going to drop down to our forearm. Same thing, elbow can be a little bit in front of the shoulder, and it's literally the same moves. We'll do 3 of these. Go ahead and drop the elbow down, top elbow towards the bottom elbow. And inhale up. Don't try to watch me or get to where my elbow is or any of that stuff. Really, honestly, just close your eyes and try to feel that area that's starting to stretch. Now, most bodies that I query, they feel it more in the bra line area when we drop down to the forearm. And actually, I feel it more in my in the bra line than I do in the back of my side waist on this round, you know, interesting. And bringing that down in, letting that elbow maybe reach a little away from the thighs or towards that upper part of your mat, I could say, right? And just play with the elbow until you find a spot that feels good, or keep moving through areas. Take a breath. And then we're going to bring that hand down and push ourselves up, and we're going to go right over to the other side and do the same thing on the other side. So again, the legs can stack or they can be separated. It's whatever feels best in your body, right? Different things for different ankles and knees and hip joints and side waist. That bottom arm is going to come out a little bit, and you're going to bring that top hand up behind the head-ish. Take an inhale. I don't ever pull on my head, by the way. I exhale, I drop the elbow down. My head does turn down with that, but I'm just following the motion, right? Inhale up of the spine. And exhale, coming down and in. And inhale, coming up. And one more time, coming down and in. And then when you get there, you're going to pause for a second. And you might even reach that elbow away from your thighs and kind of play with where that is. Again, doesn't have to be static. It can be moving on this one, but that said, if you find a sweet spot, maybe pause with it. Breathe. Keep breathing for sure. And then lift that elbow up, dropping down to your forearm, trying to maybe get that other spot or another spot. Take an inhale. With an exhale, you're going to drop that arm down. And inhale up. And I say arm, but I always like to think about the elbow, just because that's the part that kind of leads you in, right, and comes in. Elbow moving down towards the other arm / elbow / mat, whatever works for you. Inhale up, noticing where do you feel it on this side. And again, I can give you generalities. You know, something I do, especially in my privates, is I ask people where they feel things, and I just start to research in that way. Now stay in this time and reach that elbow away. And more often than not, when I ask people, they feel this one more kind of around the bra line area of the top arm. But, you know, depends on the day, I suppose. And bringing that up, you can bring your hand down, and you're actually just going to come right down onto your back. This is going to conclude this series. I'm going to do 2 short ones. So when you come down, come into the same position that you started class in. And if that was feet on the ground, still the feet on the ground, right? But if that was legs extended, you can do that one. But I want you to just take a second when you come into that Shavasana. Before we finish, you can close the eyes and tune into those same areas. So we'll start down with the sacrum and the low back. Maybe they feel exactly the same. Maybe they feel different, right? Tune into that low floating rib, kidney band area. Coming up to the bra line area. That can be the whole back. It doesn't have to be right next to the spine the whole time, right? Moving, sliding up behind the lungs, shoulder blades, moving all the way up to where the neck and the thoracic spine meet, and the shoulders, the tops especially, the neck and the cranium. And if it was a little sensitive to extend your legs, maybe take just a moment and see how that feels now. And it might feel exactly the same. You might want to immediately put your feet on the ground again. But maybe we opened some stuff, and maybe that is a little more accessible. Now, we didn't do tons of low back, but it's funny how all this stuff is very connected. Let's take 3 breaths without my voice. And if you have time to stay here, hang out here. But if you are on a time limit, and that was part of the reason you were drawn to this particular video, right? Put the feet on the ground again if they were extended. Reach that right arm overhead and roll over to your right. Left hand comes over. Push the floor away. Keep that neck soft. Come on up to seated or kneeling. I'm actually going to go to kneeling. I just went and got a chiropractor appointment and I want to keep my adjustment. And this is better for my hips and my spine, right? Not necessarily for you. And go ahead and sit up nice and tall. For years I sat cross-legged because everybody else sat cross-legged. And I can do it, but when I do it for mass amounts of time, it tends to aggravate my SI joint, my sacroiliac joint that has some issues sometimes. So I started taking care of myself at some point. Namaste, friends. And look for part 2. I'm going to do another short series so that you hopefully have 2 that you can come back to and do intermittently or both in one day or whatever you need to do. But, you know, may you be well, friends.